the people looking for managers, what should they expect? Because obviously there are people who are duped. They get signed under someone, then wasangata fetched kefinto. What exactly should an artist look for in a manager that they should tick to say, okay, Maiseni, welcome to Headlines. Kuneko tuchita breakdown ama stories are pangama headlines mu Zambian entertainment industry content ya pano tulanda mchibemba pan target audience yes ma Zambians na malebaniza waku. My name is Abel Black, and today I'm with the man, the legend, the myth, the superhero of the music industry, Superman Lukundo. Is it Siwale? Siwale, okay. Ninja nandefe correctly, but kula fati tauri sure. Today to alala na pari artist management because kula wasana ama DM number 3 for Warondore once and for all for our program Activation. There's like years and years of experience. We can't obviously cover everything.
No.
So I'm going to touch on things that people that want to be artist managers need to know.
Okay.
And things that artists that want to work with a manager need to know. Just to give a brief background, how did you get into artist management?
I think it gravitated towards me. It chose me, if I can say that. Mm-hmm. I was really just a fan of music, like good Zambian music. I was always found with Charlie Bravo, the time that Sling Beats was really thriving, and I just come up, and I was always there. I was always in the studio. I always just wanted to be involved. So that want to be involved, I used to take people like Chameleon, Daliso Mwana wa Mkombon, all the people that were on the So Good roster. I used to drive them to most of the events and just be there just because I wanted to be involved. But I didn't know that was sort of setting me up to be interested or to be in artist management, because then I would find myself saying, no, we can't let the people see you yet. Let me walk in and talk to them and find out what you have to do, or where we can sit and wait before your performance. Yeah. And that was just me setting myself. I didn't even know. It was just me being helpful as a Superman.
At which point did you see to say, oh, so I'm actually the manager? When was it like officially stated that you are the manager of the people you are dealing with?
I think when Mampi said to me, she calls me Daddy, and I call her Mommy, so it was just like, Daddy, I think tumwa kwa ni shokuba manager, and I was just like, Then I said, anyway, because I had such a good relationship with her that I felt like even if I didn't succeed at being that, it wouldn't be a bad thing, So I said, what the heck, let me try this out. But I had been in Australia and the USA before that, and I had worked in a Dr. Dre studio as an intern in California. Wait. Yes.
Dr. Dre?
Yes. So,
wow.
As an intern.
Have you met?
We met twice. Mostly they gave us other upcoming producers to be attached to, and we did a lot of work with them, so it was interesting. It was really it was an interesting time. But for me,
your CV yonga papari bayo nga pavat intend for Dr. Dre.
No, if we talk about the career, but after being exposed, when I got back here, I said to myself, some of the things that I've seen and learned there, I think I'll try and execute here. And I was just trying, but I discovered that what I had seen there was so good. It was so good that even if I was just trying, people were looking at me and saying, this guy has come with something different. Who is this guy,
Yeah.
So I think that's the time that really shaped me. When I worked with Mampi, we went through trials by fire. We did some things didn't work out, some things worked out, but that was the defining moment for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what were the major differences? Because obviously industry in Zambia padia royaliamba compared to what you had seen in the States. Can you still remember what you noticed was the biggest gap?
There were just a lot of, I don't know if you call them discrepancies. There was just so much. There was just even just attention to detail in setup, stage setup. I mean, you can see that even now that gap is still, we still haven't closed it. People still go to performances and just feel like, oh, we're showing up to a performance, and you haven't asked even the promoter what they've set up for you, or you haven't thought about your brand well enough to say, this is what I want. So we just go and perform. Where Abel Black is going to perform, I'm going to perform after Abel Black, and it's just going to be Abel Black and Super then. But those people actually take time and plan for months and say, if you saw what we did with, what did we do recently? The Copala Experience, where we brought the motorbikes out, and we had the braai stand, and we had things that we wanted Chef to be recognized for. The braai stand because he cooks, maybe the bikes because he's a streets person. So things like that we deliberately said, we're going to do this, and we're going to give people, we're not going to have an experience and not give people an experience. So things like that. So I think even up to now, even stage setup, even just the background to say, like I said, if Abel's coming before me, what are people seeing even on the screens to differentiate that, okay, that was Abel performing, now this is Super performing. So a lot of the times we don't pay attention to that. We just go to an event, and whatever the event promoter is providing, they'll say, this is the stage we have. It's a 2x4 and there's 3 screens. No one goes the extra mile to say, well, I want 4 screens, and I want the stage to lift me, and these are some of the things that we've seen at the Stanbic music festivals, where the stage just tries to elevate, brings out this guy panono fe yapusana kofe mwamona nokubona chipondo chafika abesu bachikwera fe pa stage bachitefe akuchita
So officially, we know Chef is like your artist. Is there someone else that you're comfortable mentioning besides Chef that people need to know that you're managing?
Nobody that I can think of at the moment.
Okay.
I'm helping a lot of people. So let's move a bit in the conversation. Then I'm trying to think who I can mention.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to like the people looking for managers, what should they expect? Because obviously there are people who are duped. Yes. They get signed under someone, then what exactly should an artist look for in a manager that they should tick to say, okay, or this is what the manager is supposed to do?
The most important one is how passionate that person is about you. Because even if you don't have money, like even if you don't have money, or the said manager doesn't have money, the passion can drive a lot of creativity and ideas that can generate money. But a lot of artists have a problem where they'll come even to me and they'll just say, because I've got success with Chef or with whoever else that I've helped, that they can have success with me. But if I'm not passionate about it, then there's nothing that's going to happen really, because it's just going to be like, okay, this is another opportunity for me to make money, and I'll just, I'm not going to push the way I should push. But for I'll give an example of Chef. For people like Chef, because I'm passionate about it, sometimes even when Chef is not around, I'll attend a meeting and I'll become Chef. I've been on a Zoom call as Chef before, because I'm passionate about it and I want the brand to succeed so much that I put my life on the line.
Okay.
So it just the being passionate about it will determine what that person can do for you. Because like I said, even in situations where there's no money, you start off and you walk and you say, the show is at Mulungushi, panoturini pashani, natukwe tempia. But Abel, let's just start off. We'll be telling stories along the way, and that's the difference between having someone who will just say, tawatupere transport, so to kalafe. But you can't be thinking like that when you want to make it. You have to be hungry. Chef Adirandati, amnesia over everything. Work hard like it's your first time. Be as passionate. So if you are going to do that, the first thing for me is passion, because that will determine when Abel calls me on a Saturday and me to say, okay, come home, we can do the podcast, or no, I'm something that I'm doing. Nishinjirefe ku barber shop, but I'm just not passionate about the podcast.
What should an artist have from the side of the manager that the manager will look for in an artist?
So your business to abamo babiri nayo. So obviously walikwata nayo tuntu mona. So you can also explain. But
Okay, what should people have in order to work with someone like you?
I feel like some sort of talent. You don't have to be a special talent because one of my jobs is to polish up the talent, but there must be some sort of talent. But aside from talent, there must be hunger, because I'm not going to get up every day and I need to feed off your energy as an artist and say, oh wow, this guy has made an effort to come here at this time so that we can record this, or so that we can go and see this client because he wants to succeed. I need to see that hunger, feel that burning desire in the artist as well, because it's not enough to have talent. We know a lot of talented people that have never made it because they were not hungry enough. And we know a lot of hungry people that are not talented but made it just because they were hungry. Atumpampamina? Yes. So I think hunger, that desire to succeed, it has helped a lot of people. Even during this period, there's people that are just throwing themselves in people's faces and making sure they are seen, making sure they are heard, and being smart. So yeah, I think for me, those are not the only things, but those are some of the things for me that I can think of right off the top of my head, because that desire from both from the manager, it comes as passion. From you, it comes as hunger. If it's there, then like I said, I'm not going to feel scared to go and talk to an Abel Black and say, I've got this artist and this is what I want to do for him. And who knows, maybe that's the opportunity that my artist needed. But it wasn't going to happen if I was just narifi nyafe nari kalafe ndelo lela. So yeah.
Okay, so that's the ideal situation.
Ideal, yes.
Number, like for example, you're saying passion. I'm sure there have been cases where you're passionate about an artist, but takwete hunger, and maybe you invest your time, your energy. This could even be a course of months or years. Have you had experiences like that with artists before, and how did you move past that, or how did you resolve that situation?
I've had experiences like that, of course. I've worked with some artists that were you wake up and you're begging for a song. Takuliko song here new, and then maybe you force and finally you record some songs. But even just to get those songs to be released, or to speak to that artist, or that artist to come and say, come, let's run through the 5-track EP that you've got, so that we pick 3 songs, so that when we pick those 3 songs, then tueshe kolimbio twarapangira ma video, because we're not going to make videos for 8 songs that quite MP, but those 3 songs. So I just need your time so that we can exchange energies or compare notes. And then that person is just not showing up, and every time you keep on saying nangufe umuntu mwalibikamo na feature fe ya muntu fe omukankara, but uyo artist arafira okuisa mukupuyikisha verse yako kupuisha fina ngo 3 bars limbe ashala ko limbe ali recorda no recorda. So situations like that, when you're starting out, it's cool, but when you get to like the level that I've gotten to, it's difficult. And I'm not bragging about the level. I'm just saying I've evolved. I've gone higher. And so to have those little fights nowadays with people is a bit more difficult than it used to be that time, because now I've got this other thing on my plate and I've got this other thing on my plate. So, so I've had situations like that with artists, and how I moved past them was I maybe for some of those things I stayed for a year, 2 years. I had conversations. An important part of being a manager is to have very honest conversations with the artist. So we had honest conversations in hope that person will change. And then you have hope. You have hope for 5 months, 6 months, a year. And if you're not seeing change, it's time to move. I am not going to put a deadline and say you need to move after 6 months or 1 year, but you need to move at some point. You need to move, because that same energy can drain you of the energy to be a manager.
So what does that look like in a good scenario? Because I think a lot of separations between managers, artists, producers, we are got a vision ya story. And usually because the artist is more influential, their story usually gets told more than the manager or the producer side.
Of course.
So is it even possible for there to be a separation and both parties just agree to say tafile bomba?
It's very possible. I think it's important to build a relationship with the artist so that even if you get to that point, it's just like you are in a relationship with a significant other. And then you've built such an understanding. Mwabanga my best friends. So you've built such an understanding that even when you get to that point, you're even laughing about it. Yeah, so if in a fiapwa, I've been in relationships with some ladies, and but at a point when it's happening, it's almost like but because of the understanding that we've built and respect that we've built for each other, nobody says anything like harmful or detrimental. And even after we go our separate ways, we meet each other, maybe we even call each other just, how's it? Okay, okay, you know, things like that. I believe it's the same in the artist relationship. So for example, my relationship with Chef is so good that, you know, we even outside the music we pick on each other about the football teams that we support. We go to play football together. We go to we'll talk about a movie, or we'll talk about maybe something that's trending in Zambia. Oh, now mona fide fachitika. So that even outside the music, it's very easy for us to exist, you know, and that's why building those relationships is important. Because and then even, you know, sometimes if you leave that room, you go your separate ways for 6 months. The artist discovers that no one can really do what Super was doing for me, and you also discover that artists, they are not as passionate as he was actually. So there's even room for you to rekindle that working relationship, and you get back together.
Okay.
So
there's this common misconception, especially from upcoming artists, where they think a manager is like a sponsor or the boss. Can you just clarify how that relationship is supposed to work?
I think it's also important to set parameters and boundaries and guidelines and borders and before you take off on a relationship. So I think for me, every artist that I work with is not the same as the way that I work with Chef. It's different because we've got certain parameters and borders, and there's certain things that you can do with Chef and certain things that you can do with another artist that you can't do with other artists. I don't know if that makes sense. So an important part of being a manager is, again, I'll go to football because I love football, is being you're like a talent scout. So when you're a talent scout and you're dealing with even a football player, you have to see even the sort of training that works for them, so that even when you're looking for teams, you know, okay, this team has this style of play, so that training will cater to my guy the way, you know. So it's also about learning a person. When you learn a person, you know how to talk to them. The way I can talk to you is not the way that I can talk to maybe an Evans Kabesha or someone, because some people take things personal. Some people are more sensitive than others. So you have to learn how to talk to those people, because then that will give you the boundaries and say, oh, okay, so, you know, this is what. So when you get to those boundaries, then you can talk about, oh, I'm coming from a well-to-do family, so I'll be your manager, but nakulabika muna nakafandi ya fuel nalikwata motoka yandi, so I'll be taking us around. You have set those parameters yourself. Not the artist comes into the relationship thinking that no, the manager needs to do this, the manager needs to sponsor this. If anything, the artist is the ching. That's the money machine. So it's now up to you to use your brains to milk that artist or milk other people to get what you need to get for that artist. You know, mwayako company and you say this is my product. How are you portraying your product? So I said, nalikuwa taka pondo ngana kabika fepa microphone. Tefinto. Seriously, ekamuntu kobekalia. Okay, twala kupela 50 pin. Iyo 50 pin. Twakupela. Iyo 50 pin nomba mwamboko yakana nomba. Uku ku studio twalali prakoti, and those are not real figures, by the way. Mwimuna kwa 50 pin is enough for you to do certain things. So 10 pin uku twala pela ko producer uku 10 pin uku twala shooting na ko video, you know. So the manager is a facilitator of those things. Is the plug, the connection. Say company ine nalabonfya ama skill set yandi nalalanda nabali abantu, but at the end of the day I still need you. So it's not just a money situation where you see a manager and the manager is the money. You are actually the money, but it's up to the manager to say, nani nalikwatako ishimpia olo nchukwe tempia ishi, but I've got a skill set or a talent that allows me to talk to people in such a compelling manner that they will give us the money that we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the manager-artist relationship, do you, in your view, think artists and manager are popular? Or does the manager need to take a back seat? Or does it even matter whether the manager is popular or takes the back seat?
For me, coming from where I come from a humble background, so I've never been one to jostle for attention the way the artist is. But at the same time, it works for some people. There are some artist managers that cannot exist without being in the spotlight. It would kill them as well. And some of those artist managers, them being in the spotlight has also ended up helping the artist in some way or another. So I can't say that there's a set way for that one. For some people, not being in the spotlight works, and for some people, being in the spotlight works. But if you ask me, I would say, and this is not disrespect to any manager that's there that is in the spotlight. For me, it just doesn't work. I'm just not good like that. I'm used to being in the background. You see many events that I've been to, and I was looking at photos the other day, and I was surprised that I was in the photo. I was like, wait, what? After 4 days of viewing those photos, that's when I saw myself in the photo. But that's just me. I'm never in front. You see videos come out to a poster page, Jakwa chef. I'm in the back. Half of the time, people will think, basupa tabari cook show. I'm just in the back. That's me. My mind at that moment is concentrating more on what could go wrong. If whatever could go wrong goes wrong, how do I remedy it? So we've been to so many shows where, if you remember Fiashima, we've been to shows where something just doesn't work out, especially when you're working with a live band, you're doing what kula situation. So for me, my mind is always, okay, how is the client looking at us? So I'm always looking from the eyes of a client. And then I'll go na stage na nguna pisha message if you register mona crowd therefore register, you know. I'm also the extra eye for him to see what the crowd energy is like. So sometimes we'll go to an event and we'll put down a playlist, and then maybe now we are a corporate event and your playlist is just hardcore hip hop songs, and so you are able to see and say, kuno kuli abachukulile kuli abashani. So then you go and tell ila folder tukwete the other folder, so tulapanga imbi folder ila folder tukwete muri shonseni mboshira twalasendamo wala twalasendamo foolish me twalasendamo kumweso, because that generation that's there will be able to relate to those songs more. So then we adjust, and people don't even see it because we've planned it, but we're also so busy doing that. Okay. So, but for some other people, it's just the pastage shani, ndechita shani, you know. Yeah. So it's a style of management. You have it even in basketball coaches. You have it in football coaches. You have people like Mourinho, who's very loud, but he gets the results. And you have people like Sir Alex Ferguson at the point that he was not one to really say crazy things in the media. But he would get the results. So it's preference.
Yeah. Okay, in terms of the public, the measure of a good manager is usually attributed to how big the artist is. Sometimes it's just luck. For example, you could work on your first artist and they become the biggest thing.
Of course.
Does that make you the better manager than maybe someone who's groomed 50 people that ended up being B-list artists? Or in your own view, how do you measure what makes a good manager and what doesn't?
Okay, again, no disrespect to the managers that are doing their thing with fresh talent. My challenge to you, though, would be consistency. If you look at Chef, Chef is being mentioned in the same breath as many artists that are there now. But ask yourself when Chef started making music or when he first came on the scene. Tell me when Chef first came on the scene, if you remember.
For me, it was around 2012, 13.
How many years ago is that?
It's about 10, 11 years.
So now if you even arguably, even if you say 20 Shani, whatever, 2010, if you look at the time that has been there, in order for that artist to be mentioned in the same breath as people that have come up at this point or after COVID or post-COVID TikTok era, Nenshi, it has taken consistency. You know, we shouldn't even be having those conversations where people are making comparisons, because some of these people have been in the game for a long time, and what has helped them is consistency. Guys, it's not easy to consistently every year be given some of the to be called for the best shows, to be called for the best for the end of year parties, to have songs that are somewhere up there, even if they're not on top of the streaming list, but to be in that bracket, to be in that conversation, it takes a lot as a manager. It takes a lot, because every time, bro, every time there's a new artist, it's a headache for you. And you, at some point, your artist is the biggest artist in the country, right? And then all of a sudden, here comes some new guy, and you're just like, and then your time has just gone. So you have to now accept that, there's actually some other people that are making waves. But instead of trying to fight them, you start trying to ask yourself, what can I do to make my brand keep surviving, keep being top tier brand, to keep being in the conversation? I think for me, that's what makes a successful manager. When people go through the fire, when other artists come up, and then they make your artist is no longer the top artist or the happening artist or whatever you want to, but you still survive, you still get the best shows, you still give the best performances, then we can say, okay, because you are handling the business, the branding aspect, you are handling the performance, you know, people are giving good reports all the time. So yeah.
What's the major difference between working with an established artist like Chef versus working with an upcoming artist?
That's a difficult one for me to answer, because most of the management gigs that I've had, I think for Chef it's arguable, because I found it was already happening, but there was still a lot of work to do in order to get the brand to a place where the corporates would accept it. Certain things would happen. So I still look at it that there was still some level of him coming up. I'm not going to say upcoming, but him coming up, because we needed to evolve to a different level. You know, so I wouldn't say there's so much of a difference, because for me, even now, a lot of people would look at this guy and say he's done everything that he's done. You know, he's reached the roof. What's next for him? Those are the thoughts that are in my mind. I'm like, okay, what can I do for him next? So I can never look at it and just say, an established artist who you are. Now I'm always thinking, what am I going to do next? This is what the competition is doing, and this is what I need to do in order for him to be in the conversation, not just remain in the conversation, but to be a very integral, a very key part of the conversation, not just to be, oh, there's someone in the back of the conversation. Uyo nankwe mwari kari kwa chala one seat, so give him the one seat that remained, you know. But what am I doing to throw irabarandati, throw elbows so that maumfwa akumfwe irabapunda mbola takumfwe.
Yeah.
You know, what am I doing? So I don't think there's so much of a difference.
Yeah.
The only difference is, of course, for me would be maybe like how easy it is to get maybe gigs. It's a bit easier. Even when they haven't given you a gig, you can go and say, oh, do you know that my guy is here, and what my guy stands for resonates with your brand, and then all of a sudden they're interested. So the dates that we are free are this date, this date, this date, this date. And that's the difference for me, because you can't go, it's very difficult to go and sell an upcoming artist. Like somebody that's, maybe some of these upcoming artists, they are known, but the relatively unknown ones, it's a bit more difficult to sell them. To just go and say, oh, aninkwata uyuwa so na so. I've got Killer, you know. Killer, when we were starting with Killer, it was very difficult. It was difficult because, first of all, the boy raps in English. You know, so a lot of people, it wasn't really working for their brands. Why company A, I can't mention the companies because I might get a deal of these companies and they come back to me and be like, so company A will just tell you, oh, if we're the demographic that we deal with, so you want to, we agree. He's very talented, but he just doesn't work for what we're trying to do. You know, so it's a bit more difficult then. But when you have an established artist, you can make them believe. You say, oh, and that's the good thing about building a brand that cuts across every, whether it's children, whether it's Awakulu, whether it's corporates, whether it's Mkombon. I can go literally anywhere and sell chef. Yeah. You know, so it's I mean, you just have to be consistent with it, and you keep believing. We kept on believing in Killer, and now Killer. The most recent thing that I saw was the hip hop event that was there, and he was on the same stage as Amena Makitu, Slap D,
Grammy Award,
the Grammy Award, Timbuktu, Shani. And a lot of people did not make that lineup. He made the lineup. This is someone that we spotted the talent. We kept on believing, and you know, there it is now. So now people are taking notice, and of course now there's even the things like Spotify where he's blown everyone out of the water. You know, so those are the things that when he blows people out of the water, we are looking at that and we're saying, oh, we actually believed in this. We pushed. You know, I don't know if I can say on camera that I was in a group with you that was spearheading one of his first projects, his first major projects, you know, and we exchanged ideas in there. We did what we did, and and we broke that chain, the monotony of just saying, oh, unless he's established. We pushed. His numbers were crazy. Everybody took notice. And of course, it went down a bit until Kwaisawa he program feature which pushed him again. Yeah, but
you know the unfortunate thing about industry toamo is gore bomba na pa ground level. Munike kwa taure bomba.
That's true.
Until I saw pull up.
And there's actually, now that you're saying that, there's actually a lot of managers that I've seen that are really good in their craft. But sometimes the artist they are working with is not yet big enough. So those people are not even mentioned in conversations. I was seeing the nominations that we had. I am artist managers, and it was a bit sad to see some names missing, but they couldn't really do anything because they are still working with people. But Ngawabomba Nankwe, he comes to you or she comes to you and she's like, oh, Basupa, idea. So, and then you're just like, wow, this person could actually be even smarter than me. Takwe platform the same as the platform that I have.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people out there that just need to keep on pushing. And I worked with artists that were bottom level artists, and no one looked at me until a certain point when I started pushing. But I also had to work with certain artists. So like just want to encourage someone out there that just keep pushing, bro. And sis.
Maybe we should divert a bit to the managers now. What are some of the struggles that these guys should expect when they want to venture into this business?
Guys, it is not by any stretch of your imagination. It's not easy to be a manager. It is not easy at all. I was laughing with somebody, and I'm not sure, that was a few weeks ago, and they saw me like I couldn't eat. There was just a situation that happened that was draining, like just sapping all of my energy. And they're asking me, say, Nishi. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is the part of management that you don't see, because a lot of you people just see us in pictures with the artist that you would like to be in pictures with. And everyone is just like, hey, life ninga fire, life ya kwataba super idea. You know, you see us entering events for free or backstage. Kwata, tuma perks. Yes, the perks are nice. Everything is. But there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. First of all, the artist will stress you. Doesn't matter what artist it is. Yes, I'm saying this even about chef. There's just times that chef just won't pick up my call because he's busy or something else is happening. But for me, at that particular point, I need feedback from him that is very important. So parts like that or times like that are frustrating. And they happen a lot because he's also got a life. He's trying to rest. Sometimes he just doesn't want to be with his phone. But for me at that point, I need very vital information that is time sensitive. You know, there's times that you guys see all the shows that work out. There's also shows that don't work out, where you want to do something or you want to collaborate with an international artist, and some small something just comes and just ruins everything. And you can't go and give that report. The shani government has done this or has done. You cannot go and post that report and say step by step that it failed because of this. So you bite the bullet and look like the DAO manager at that point. You bite the bullet and you can't give out certain details. You can't. Because that's not professional.
You know the thing about being a manager, you're like the shield
that
blocks the artist from all the nonsense. Even some which they themselves do. So there are times where people would say, no, why isn't Super doing this? But maybe Super tried, but the artist was just not doing it.
Exactly.
But they always say it was the manager that failed to handle the potential.
Even sometimes, and it's not about chef. Not everything is about chef. So when I say, even sometimes a performance, you know that if this guy was rehearsing more, we would have done so much more. And you go to an event, and then you see it unfold. You see in the client's eyes, the people in the audience. You even hear some people murmuring, you touched that. And you know, because you had the time, you had the resources, the artists just didn't avail themselves for that. Those are the frustrating parts. Some of the other frustrating things or sad parts of this are endorsements. There are a lot of endorsements that are going around within the industry, and some people are looking good with those endorsements, but those endorsements were supposed to belong to maybe one of the artists that you're dealing with, and you know that deal was on your table first, but that other artist is looking good with that endorsement. And it's so frustrating because that came to you, but maybe you guys just didn't take the action that you should have taken. Maybe you weren't good with time. You missed a deadline. It was time sensitive. The client needed to roll out a campaign, so you were delaying them, so they had to go to the next best thing. So it's not entirely awesome to watch other people run with an endorsement that was yours or a deal that was yours. you know, or a feature, a big feature that was yours from maybe somewhere out there that could have done things for you. So, and then sometimes also the artist will have a different idea or a different mindset from the mind that you have maybe for a particular project. Oh, this guy wants to feature with you, and then you know what the benefits of that feature are, or you, according to you, you think these are the benefits that you can find from that. But the artist just emotionally is not attached to that. They just don't think a feature with that person can work. You know, so it's really at times like that you work so hard in the background, you have conversations with the other team's manager, and then everything is set up, and then you come to your artist and then you say, oh, here it is, all you need to do is this, and then your artist will just say to you, I'm not feeling that situation, I'm not entirely happy with that, you know.
And you still have to shield them.
And you still have to shield them. You still have to protect them and say, oh, there was a situation that was A, B, and C, so that's why this didn't work out. Of course, we've also built relationships with other managers, so that also just kills you, because you are looking at and saying, what is Abel thinking about me now? Abel came to ask for a feature, but he doesn't understand that I cannot push this guy or this girl to do this feature within the 1 week that they want it done, you know, because he's just not mentally ready. And sometimes people don't understand that, and then people don't understand that you can't feature with everyone or the whole world, and it gets frustrating and tiring sometimes. So times like that, bro, you just sometimes you just want to, and sometimes I just want to walk away from a certain artist. Sometimes even, chef, there are times that you want to walk away, and you have to train yourself to sleep on it. Say, sleep on it. Don't be so emotional. What's the next best thing that you can do? You know, so it's crazy, bro.
Have you ever felt like stepping away from management completely?
Yes, I feel like that. Even now, I feel like that sometimes. There's some things that, for me, I believe that they should work, and then they don't work out because of a certain small detail. And for me, that's just frustrating, because maybe you know what the paycheck was like. Maybe the money was good, but maybe something small just, you know. And so times like that, you ask yourself, why am I really doing this? Am I in the right job? Maybe Bible school in church, you know, times like that. So yeah, it's there's the nice side that people see on cameras, that people see when we're smiling, and there's the downside to it. A lot of it is sad. A lot of it it's crazy, bro. It's ridiculous.
If you had to weigh the down parts against the great parts, what percentage would you allocate? Like in a year, what percentage goes to the crazy negative parts, and what percentage goes to the positive, exciting parts?
For me, and for everyone it's different. For me, I think it's 80% positive, maybe 80. Let me not even overplay it. 80% positive and 20% negative. But for me, the same person, it can be 50% negative and 50% positive, or 70% negative. But because I've decided, I've made it my plan, my prerogative to say, Nanguchibeshani, I have to make the most out of this. So be it whatever artist I deal with, there will be a situation, and I'll say, okay, how can we remedy this? How can we recover from this? What's the next best thing that we can do, so that I don't feel the negative impact of that thing? That has helped me lessen the negative parts. Okay. Yeah.
So let's say there's an artist manager somewhere who's feeling like giving up and stepping away. What things should they consider in that moment that you do consider that sometimes makes you get back in the game?
My upbringing is one of them. So my upbringing always helps me to have a sound judgment and to take time. Not if you ask anybody, I'm one of the least emotional managers that you will find, but that quality of being not so emotional has helped me, because sometimes I'll just say, today I'll feel it like I need to give up. Like tapani for fidechta, and then I'll think namba no kutontonga. I think checking too much totally online. Maybe things like that. But then I tell myself, I say, okay, sleep on this. Turn on the PlayStation, play some FIFA, do something, or go and get something that you like to eat. Treat yourself. Go to the cinema, watch a movie, sleep on it. Bible, do not let the sun go down on your anger. And we come back the next day and we say, okay. So for me, what I do in situations like that, maybe with Chef, I'll be upset. He'll also be upset, maybe, depending on who has done the bad thing. And we'll look at it and say, we've built a team. We've come this far. That we didn't come this far just to come this far. And so then you tell yourself, and you tell yourself, okay, conflict is necessary for anything to move forward, bro. If there's no conflict, even in people that are married, they have, you are married, sorry, man. Yeah, so, yeah. Could have a conflict, but how you decide to move on from that conflict is that's the deal breaker, that's the game changer. So I'll sit there and I'll say, okay, let me sleep on this, and I'll just say, I'm not calling this guy today. And then I'll wake up the next morning and I'll just say, okay, you know what, there's nothing I can do about that, but what are we doing next? And I'll also register my displeasure. But also the way that you register your displeasure is very important, because sometimes the artist can feel attacked. Some people can take it and some people can't. But when you register your displeasure, he starts to, or she starts to take notice and say, okay, so those things don't really work for Basupa. And as time goes by, that percentage gets smaller, because now he knows that, so this is what upsets this man.
What are the 3 biggest ways that you make money with your artists as a manager?
For us, the 3 biggest ways are streaming, because now we're in the streaming age, streaming platforms. So if you've got that set up properly, you make good money off that. The second one is from events. By events, everybody has events, but if you make the brand look a certain way, you can command a better fee than everyone else is commanding, and you don't have to go out there and tell, but you make the money off the events. And then also the frequency of events is important. So we get a lot of events, and we get a lot of top tier events. My companies sometimes those come and really make good money for us. And then also endorsements make good money, because when we're signing endorsements, we make sure we try to sign an endorsement that's over 6 months to 1 year. So if we sign an endorsement like that, we're getting paid every month. In fact, depending on the type of arrangement you have, you can even get a lump sum, a large chunk of that money. Say, for example, I'm just throwing a figure out there. Say, for example, you get an endorsement for 700 kwacha. What is it? 700,000. Sorry, 700,000. And then these guys say, because you are doing this for us for a year, at the beginning of the endorsement, will give you 400,000 cash. So they pay you up front, and then a year shala 300 will be breaking it down per month. So imagine these guys have given you 400,000 kwacha just like that, and maybe you had plans, you wanted to buy a new car for the team, for the way you travel, my shows, or you wanted to say, for the team we want to build an office, or we want to do this, things like that.
An interesting thing, I'll ask one question, then I'll ask another one. What's the most money you've made in the shortest amount of time?
The most money we've made, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
You could say we made 500 pin in 1 hour. Like, I need a time frame and an amount. Or you could say we made 50 pin in 1 week.
We made 700 in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, 700 pin, not 700 kwacha.
700 pin in 1
week. Yeah, okay. 10 minutes.
Interesting.
So
And then
it was just a good negotiation,
yeah.
compelling case. After the compelling case, these guys were sold and said, let's not even waste time, let's sign it right now, and
Mhm.
because we want to show our commitment, we are giving you this money. Boom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard Chef and Sampa mention the government like cutting our checks or getting a percentage. How does ZRA come into the conversation? I think I've never heard someone address this.
I mean, it's just tax, though. It's tax. A lot
So what
it-
kind of tax does an artist pay?
it's artist. I got to write that artist tax. No, just
Mhm.
it's just when you have certain accounts. So like there's an account that we use for Chef that is known to be Chef's account because it's Chef 187. So that
Mhm.
account gets taxed,
Okay.
especially because some of the amounts of money that go into there are large sums of money.
Mhm.
So they'll always tax you.
Do you think artist management is something that someone can pursue as a career straight off like high school? Buffy artist management.
I definitely think artist management can be pursued as a career. I sometimes think we're in the wrong country because when I was interning, even at Dr. Dre Kolia,
Mhm.
bro, those guys make money. But of course, there's royalties, there's shani, there's usage rights, image rights. They get percentages of that, and then the percentages are healthy. So for those guys, but I came here and I'm like, can this really work? But I'm a living, breathing example or a testimony that it can work. I don't do anything besides artist management. I would love to do other things, but I haven't had the opportunity to. But despite not having the opportunity to do other things, I'm able to live comfortably. I'm able to live very comfortably. And inenatemo tuntu ndakwanisha tuntu dia virafine fe wafa kukamotoka wakwanisha washita. I've managed to, of course, naka payment plan limbi here and there, but because there's other priorities. There's taking care of family. For me, I take care of my family. So I've also been able to take care of my family, paying medical, helping with medical bills, helping with certain things, helping with just normal life bills as well. So I definitely think it's something that can work, and that's of one artist that I've done that with. So if you add the other artists, for me, some of the other people just become, okay, now I'm making this for leisure, I'm making this for a good time, I'm making this for my vacation to go there. But it's just about how much you put into it and how much you get. If you're smart enough, you can. It's definitely, it can work. It's the workload that you can handle, because if you can handle a workload, you can deal with more than one artist. So imagine you're dealing with 10 artists or 5 artists, and those 5 artists are each getting 3 endorsements, and they're each getting 10 shows each, and they're each getting streaming shan, and then you're getting a cut from all that. All those little things, they add up.
Okay.
So yeah, for that song,
Okay, back to the artist. Artist Olwamba, I think Monakwata got a talent and they don't have a manager. How do they get one? Let's assume this person doesn't have the money to pay the manager at that particular point. How do they approach that situation?
Are they looking for a particular manager or
just a manager?
They just need to be seen. Like I said, I mentioned that Leme, it was in my feed for, it's called X now, not Twitter. It was in my feed for X, and I was so amazed to say. I said to myself, even if I'm not going to help this guy, I should find someone or I should point him in the right direction to people that will help him. I should help him match himself with a good manager, and I should help that manager and say, oh, I'm quite a good artist for you, since he will have been mentoring you, or I know you. But also, I believe, who's the other guy? There's another guy that was at a Sheffy show. And Sheffy was performing in the back, and then he started performing his song while Sheffy was performing in the back. His song is sad, And his song says something like "Naifubaka tumona one day, shani shani shani," but it's so ironic because Chef is in the back actually performing at an event, and then he's recording that there. So for me, that was outlandish, and I was just like, "Who is this guy? Let me listen to what else he has," you know. So what's that? But it's really, I'll send you the thing. But it's just for me that made me take notice. So you have to find a way that people can take notice of you and want to get hold of you, because maybe sometimes as an artist you are scared to reach out to Abel Black because you're like, Abel Black but how will you make Abel Black see you and start asking the questions instead of you asking him the questions? So you have to position yourself nicely. Some people agree to do free shows and say, I'm going to go to a show where Abel Black is going to be there, I'll perform for free, and they go there and they perform, they sacrifice. It's about sacrifice. They'll sacrifice. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but you need to take those steps. You need to take 3 or 4, 5 or 6 of those steps and hope that one of those steps will work out for you. Otherwise, it's not I'll tell you now, my inbox is almost, for lack of a better term, and this is lack of a better term, is almost irritating, because my inbox is full of people that have no business being in the inbox. For me, I'm a business person, and some people will just be in there and just be like, hi. So there's 20 messages that say hi, and there's someone that said hi, my name is, but because he started with hi, you're like, oh, that's another message like that. So it's difficult. You inbox people, it's difficult for people to see you. If it's Chef's inbox, even worse, people might think that he ignores them, but it's just it's overwhelming. So you have to find a way to be seen other than the normal conventional manner.
So thank you so much for your time, and if people want to follow you, where do people find you, and how do people get to work with you?
I think the easiest way to find me is to write That Guy Super as one word on all social media platforms. It should be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Nefia Shara. So That Guy Super as one word, you'll probably find me. That's me on social media. Yes, the phone numbers and everything, all the other relevant information is there as well. Yeah. So you can reach out, feel free. It might be difficult to get a response in the first day or two because I'm a bit overwhelmed, but I make sure I get back to people.
All right.
I hope what we have said, I know it's not everything, but I hope what we have said or touched on has at least opened your eyes a bit, given you something to think about.